Well, Jeff, here we are at Voice 22. It happened. We're all back together. There's almost 1,000 of us here from the conversational AI industry. And your company probably has one of the best brand recognitions of any company here. I remember meeting your team almost 4 years ago, right after you founded the company, and really impressed with the technology you built. And it's been a fun journey to watch. It's nice because I've started 7 companies. You're a serial entrepreneur. You've started different things. And so I think maybe having a founder's conversation will be a bit fun, but maybe we could just start with your company. If there's somebody out there that somehow doesn't know who Voicify is, can you just give an introduction to your company, the product that you've brought to market, and a bit of context for what it is that your team does?
Sure, yeah, and excited to be here. It's fun to be back out in the wild here, interacting with people in person again.
Yes.
So Voicify has a end-to-end solution it's a platform, end-to-end solution for creating voice user interfaces and voice assistants that can be deployed anywhere. So everything from wake word to ASR, NLU. We've got a great conversation management and decision engine. And then on the other end, we've got text to speech, and something I think is unique is we have a concept we call effects. So in addition to being able to return an answer to somebody who's making an inquiry through voice, we can also change the screen, the visual elements if you're on a mobile device or a website, so you can have a true multimodal experience. So we capture that whole platform because otherwise people are really having to manage an ecosystem of 6 or 7 vendors and building stuff natively, and it becomes cumbersome and complicated. And then the other thing, of course, is build once, deploy to many. So, we can deploy it to. We've got customers that are deploying to their websites, mobile apps, their in-car experiences with in the case of automotive customers, quick serve restaurants that are putting it on their kiosks. I mean, telephony systems, it can live anywhere. That's one of the cool things about voice.
So this doesn't have to be in the cloud. Can it be on the edge, are you saying, at like a QSR?
Yes, both, actually.
Oh, wow.
We have a hybrid capability. So if you...
That's exciting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, if you don't have the internet connection, we can actually bundle it all up and put it on the edge.
You know, the Yellow Pages, remember those? They used to have this saying, if you're not in here, you don't exist. And I think what Yellow Pages were for a small business was a all-in-one solution for marketing, right? It's like, well, all I have to do is just dominate this heading or these multiple headings. And if I just work with a good Yellow Page rep, they do a good design, and I have a big enough ad, like I'll be dialed with marketing. And in some regards, Voicify is kind of like that, right? It's the one-stop shop. And it's like, hey, we're going to help you exist across all the devices from one deployment. Was that the original vision, or since the company was founded, have there been one or multiple hard pivots that changed the kind of the trajectory of things?
Yeah, good question. That was actually part of the original vision. I think that's one area where we thought we were unique from the beginning, is not just deploying to Alexa and Google, but actually to a host of other endpoints. And as a result, I think we started working with some pretty big global brands that were trying to do exactly that.
Yes.
And then the other thing I would say is, from your example, I think you're right from a Yellow Pages perspective in terms of like, you want to exist, I think, for Yellow Pages marketing, but most of the stuff we're doing now is actually more utility than just marketing. It's, in the case of Volkswagen, for example, being able to interact with your vehicle, lock the doors remotely, turn on the air conditioning. They've even put their user manual online so it can help you walk through changing a tire if you're stuck on the side of the road. And those are that experience, that consistent experience, is deployed to Android, iOS, their website, soon their telephony system. And so they're taking full advantage of the platform at its fullest extent.
Right. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to dive in on company vision, where you're at, where you're going?
Yeah.
If not, I want to maybe talk a bit about what it's like to be an entrepreneur and a founder and your journey in that regard. But I want to make sure you have space and time to talk about the value of voice UI and conversationally. I want to make sure that we create space for that.
I would say one of the things that we're running into now, I think this kind of just gets into the nomenclature the industry's come up with it itself. But I think Google and Alexa really got people, the consumer market, thinking of voice assistants, right? And I think that it created a certain level of expectation around what that is. But for an Alexa or a Google, it's this sort of like omniscient assistant that should be able to answer any question you have.
Right.
And that's a big problem to try to solve. And I think eventually consumers kind of got a little disillusioned that, wait a sec, Alexa can't do everything.
Yeah.
And in fact, if you look at the statistics on what people mostly use it for, it's setting timers, playing music, and maybe home automation and things like that. And it's incrementally adding to what it can do. But for a company, there's more of a utility aspect of how can you create a voice user interface, not even whether you call it a voice assistant or not doesn't really matter to us. We think of it broadly as a voice user interface. So that even basic things like browsing a website where there's, tens of thousands, or like a Home Depot has 300,000 SKUs. It's hard to find what you're looking for. And, even if you have good faceted search on your website, you're clicking, department and color and size versus just in a one shot saying, I want a 100-foot garden hose size green that does whatever. And so we think of that more as just putting a voice user interface on your existing systems. And so it's a lot easier than people think. I think a lot of companies get overwhelmed with conversational AI being maybe too complex and sounds expensive and complex. And in fact, it's a lot easier than they think.
Right. So let's have a conversation about being a founding entrepreneur. There's a big difference between being a founder and CEO and being a co-founder and being invited to the vision. So I think the number one thing is we probably should tell anybody that is thinking of starting a company not to do it. I often joke that a startup is a death march to a life camp, and you rarely make it to the life camp. But that's my perspective. What's yours?
Yeah, we talk a lot about this internally and with other entrepreneurs. It can be an emotional roller coaster.
No doubt.
As you mentioned, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've done this a few times, and the longest period of time was over 10 years. And it is an emotional roller coaster where the highs are higher when you're a founder and a CEO, because that's your vision that's working, and the lows are even lower.
Right.
And so there is some, sort of internally we try to make sure we're sort of taking out the highest highs and the lowest lows and just kind of staying in the middle and staying 100% focused on the vision and just believing in the vision and not getting distracted with some of those other things, but also the ability to pivot, as if the market dictates that's what you should be doing, listening to market, adapting.
Yes.
So from my perspective, the companies that have been the most successful that I've been involved with have had teams that are able to sort of modulate, take out the super highs and the low lows, and just stay focused, and also that are willing to adapt, constantly seeing what's the competition doing, and where's the market taking us? What's the consumer? Where do they want? What's the best thing for them, and ultimately for their customers? And whenever we focused on helping our customers deliver great customer experiences for their end customers, we've tended done really well.
That's awesome. When it comes to cultivating a team, what happens in my experience and perspective, you have a founding team. Some qualify for the next step and some do not. You then have kind of the team that's organizing things. And even that team, some qualify to go on when it becomes an institution, some don't. With a startup, oftentimes people think it's a family. They act like it's a family. They even talk like it's a family, but it's a sports team. If you play well, you start. If you don't, you're on the bench. Eventually, you're out. So can you walk through the practicality and logical reality of what it is to build a founding team and why there's a benefit to think of it as a sports team rather than a family? And can you walk through some of those things? Because a lot of people in our industry, we act like a family, 1,000 of us are together right now. We're hugging on each other, but it's still, we're here for a reason. We're here for a business purpose, right? Like you want Voicify to be known, and you want to make sure you have a chance to recruit new talent and have new business opportunities. And so we need to be practical about things. So maybe we can be practical about starting teams, founding teams. I'd love to hear
Yeah.
your perspective on that.
Yeah, good question. So with Voicify, we have the good fortune of our founding team really, and largely was from the founding team of our last company.
Okay.
And so we've been sort of on a journey together.
Yes.
And so we do have that family-like atmosphere because we've gone through the trials and tribulations of starting a company from scratch.
Yes.
And so, because of that, I think we do have a sort of a leg up in that, I know that I can trust that somebody who's running sales knows what they're doing.
Right.
I want to say that our brains are linked so closely that I can anticipate everything, but I know in general what they're going to do, and that somebody on our product team is going to take us in the right direction. So, but that was cultivated over the course of 15 years of working together through other ventures.
Right.
So along the way there are situations where you got to get the right people on the bus,
Yes.
as they say, and if there are folks who are not necessarily buying into the vision, often most of the time they self-select out and they go on to do great
Right.
things in the other chosen path that they're on. It's
Right.
really people who buy into the vision and want to be part of that going forward.
Well, maybe the final question I could ask you is on vision.
Sure.
So what's your vision for Voicify? And if it's different for yourself as a executive, what's your vision for like you and what you're doing and where you're going? But I'd love to just have you cast a vision for the company and kind of tell us what gets your heart pumping and what gets your energy up.
I think this just what sort of ambient computing could be in the future.
Yeah.
I remember when we first recruited our head of engineering. We were in a coffee shop in Boston. That's
Right.
where we're headquartered. And he's a very smart guy, very successful at what he's doing, and I invited him to coffee. He'd worked on the team before, the previous venture, and sort of explaining what my vision of the future of what just ambient computing could be, where
Right.
in the future, after a lot of technology has continued to evolve, you'd be able to sit here and say in the coffee shop, hey, Uber, call me a car, and the shop will be mic'd up.
Yeah.
It will, and it'll be able to hear your voice, securely identify who you
Right.
are, tie to the systems that you have, your personalized information in, to
Right.
know that, hey, when my ride service of choice is Uber, so
Right.
call me a car, and it knows. That's Alex Dunn, our head of engineering. It knows that he prefers Uber and knows that everything about, including where he lives, will take him home and
Right.
can charge the appropriate account. And so I think that vision just you were sort of reminding me. It's the first time I've thought of that in a while. That the convenience of what it can do for the consumer and what that means, in some future state, and that we're actively part of. Driving that there, that's probably for me the most important thing in terms of the bigger vision of what's possible.
Right.
And we're adding the building blocks along the way. But I think about what I've two daughters, 2 and 4. They interact with various voice devices in the house. But I think about what their future is.
Right.
In decades down the road. What will what we're here for here at this conference.
Yes.
What are all these companies going to end up with? Where does this all take us? And I think in theory, it's that coffee shop scenario where you just talk in a very human voice and be understood by the systems and brands that you're already connected to.
Right.
It's just a new way of thinking about how to interact with the world.
Yeah. And before we wrap, what's the importance in your mind of gathering people? Obviously when things pre-pandemic, we had 4,000 people at Voice, and then post-pandemic last year, a couple hundred, and this year about 1,000 again. But we're gathering guys like you and myself, your CMO Jason and the whole team, the booth, and the thought leaders out there. So why is it valuable for there to be a Voice 22 and what is the benefit for a company like Voicify?
Yeah, I mean, getting together, getting the folks in the industry together, I think is hugely important. Just this morning, in between being at the booth and walking here, I probably had a dozen conversations with potential partners and talking about, hey, how can we integrate our systems, and do we have a shared vision here? Do we have alignment? Should we be working together? In some cases, we have joint customers that we're servicing, so.
Right.
A lot of that ideation is hard to, that sort of organic ideation just can't happen unless you're together. So, as far as Voicify being here, being part of that is important for us. We've got some customers that are here, prospects that are here, and partners. So to be able to, in a short space of time, in a couple days, be able to have really meaningful conversations with those folks.
Yes.
Have a beer with them, a coffee,
right,
is infinitely valuable.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
We so appreciate you being a part of this event. For anybody that's watching this, thank you for your attention. My name is Ian Utilli. I'm the CEO at Attention Live, and I look forward to bringing you more of these fireside chats from Voice 22. Have a very happy day.